Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to my introductory lecture for IS446, Systems Analysis and Design. And uh, this is for the fall of 2022. And this course is going to meet on Thursday evenings online. And uh, in this introductory recording that I'm going to do here, I'm going to walk you through our Canvas site. I'm going to walk you through the syllabus. I'm going to walk you through this document that we're going to be using called the weekly schedule. And I'm generally going to acquaint you with the course and the expectations. So we're looking at the Canvas site right now, and it's organized the way I typically do. So we have the recent announcements at the top, and then it's organized into these modules, okay? And the first one kind of identifies the course. You can see it's IS446, sections OAG, OAU in the fall of 2022. It's called Systems Analysis and Design, and it meets on Thursday evenings online. And the other things that we have in this first module are a link to the syllabus, a link to the weekly schedule, and then some reference things that I'd like you to take a look at. So let's go find the syllabus. Okay, so if we click on the link for the syllabus, we'll go to a page with a button. I wish we went to the syllabus, but we don't. Okay, and here's the syllabus. Okay, and as you can see, it's for IS 446 OAG OAU in the fall of 2022, and we'll go through the particulars in a bit. Okay. Let's go back to the front page. Okay. The other thing we have a link to is the weekly schedule. So let's click through on that and click the button. And the weekly schedule is a web application that I've created to keep all the content associated with the course and keep it as organized as I possibly can. The weekly schedule is organized by week. There's a page for each week of the course. And as you can see, there are 17 weeks in the semester, although the last one is exam week, so there are really only 16 proper weeks. And the numbers of the weeks serve as the link. Okay, we're currently on the index of the weekly schedule pages. So if we want to see the weekly schedule page for week 1, we click on 1. And then once we get there, we're able, to navigate to the next and the previous and go back to the index and all those kinds of things. So I think this would be kind of an interesting time to look at the beginning of the schedule. I would have liked to have had the detail up for all the weeks of the semester. What I have up right now is the first 3. Okay, and by the time we meet in week 1, I'll probably have either all of it up or most of it up. Okay, and we'll go through the rest of it when we meet then in class. Okay, so when you look at the weekly schedule, it's got these blocks of content, and each block of content represents an event that happens during the week. Okay, so the first one here in week one is on Thursday, August the 25th. We have a class session from 6 to 8 p.m. on Zoom. And it lists the topics, the required readings, the required recordings that I want you to play, and some class discussion prep. Okay, so event one is the class. Event two is on Sunday morning. We're going to have an online lab. So, what is online lab time? Well, this is a time where you can come in and get help with your assignments. Okay. In this course, early in the semester, um, maybe demand for help with assignments is kind of light because there aren't a lot of hand-in assignments in the beginning of this course, but I'm always there to talk. The other time we have lab time is when we have our class day, okay? Typically, we don't use the entire 2 hours up because I'm not typically lecturing in class. So we're typically doing, say, two discussion-oriented things. Like here in week one, we're going to have everybody introduce themselves, and then we're going to have a breakout session. So at the end of all that, I'll convert the rest of the time into lab time. And I can usually stay later if there are people who've got more questions than time will allow. So lab time is always optional. And that happens at the end of the class time when we have our class. And then we have a dedicated time on Sunday mornings from 9 to 10. Okay. Um, if we have some kind of weekly assignment, it's due on Sunday evening at the very end of the day. Okay. And here in week one, the only thing I need you to do is to send a greetings post on this kind of help desk that we have. We call it the service desk. And there's a particular project that's been set up for this course, and I'm going to point you to places where you can go to learn how to use it. And during the first 2 weeks of the course, I want you to post a greetings post there to demonstrate to yourself and to me that you can use it when you need to. Okay? So that's what's going on in week one. Of course, the content that we're covering the syllabus, and there's this really interesting kind of brochure. This is the newest in a series that have been created by the Professional Architects Organization in Minnesota. These are the kind of architects you would hire to design a home or an office building. And this is a guide to working with an architect. And I want to get you guys thinking about the issue of maybe there's a correlation between the way that people would work with an architect. Um, Let me get back to the schedule. Where did my schedule go? Oh, I've got maybe there's a correlation with between the way that people would work with an architect on designing or a home or an office a building or a store structure or something like that. Maybe there's a correlation between that and the way that clients work with systems analysts to refine their system needs and to design a system. So between the syllabus and that brochure and introducing ourselves, that's going to keep us pretty busy for week one. Let's take a look at week two. In week two, we're going to jump into the readings. And we've got three texts that we're going to be using. Okay. Uh, we have one text that's a classic systems analysis text. It's by Spurrier and Topi, and it's a fairly thick book. It's all about systems analysis and all aspects of it, and it has the point of view that um, there are kind of two general ways you can approach systems analysis. There's a traditional way that's called the waterfall method, and then there's the newer way, which is called the agile method. And Spurrier and Topi think that these can be kind of picked between depending upon the circumstances, and they can even be kind of synthesized into a hybrid. Okay. And so they have a pretty balanced worldview. So we're going to read chapter one from Spurrier and Topi, and then we're going to read chapters one, two, and three in a book called Agile Project Management for Dummies. And these agile people, they don't really agree with Spurrier and Topi. They think that this kind of newer approach to doing project management and systems analysis is the only way to do it. And this is not a particularly well balanced book, but it's a very popular book and it's a very popular approach. So we're going to dive right in, and we're going to see that there's a conflict about, and this conflict has to do with what the right way to do systems analysis is, and not everybody agrees, and we're not going to come to the bottom of that. We're going to sort of explore the various ideas that people have and try to figure out where we want to land. Okay, and what by we want to land is you all can kind of figure out for any particular project that you would want to do, the approach that you would want to take. Okay, so we're going to do some pretty interesting discussion on that in class, and then we're going to begin to have breakout sessions because one part of this class is I want you folks to break up into teams and find projects to do as teams. Okay. And of course, in the beginning of the semester, the first time you hear this seems like a pretty tall order and hard to do. And yet, I've been teaching these kind of courses, well, for more than 10 years. And I've taken hundreds of people through them. And you know what? They always seem to find a team, and they always seem to find a project, and they always seem to learn a lot, and they always seem to have a good time. So this breakout session will be the first time that we start to meet other people and start to talk about ideas about projects and clients and approaches and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to be doing that over a handful of weeks. We'll be finding projects and finding teams and finding clients and doing all that kind of stuff. So we kick that off in week 2. Okay. There's a lab. There's no hand in except for there's a reminder here to get that greetings post in. And then in the third week, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go back to the Spurrier and Topi book, which again addresses both the agile approach and the traditional waterfall approach. And we're going to cover chapter 7. And chapter 7 is about identifying development options. And we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to do some more team formation and project selection stuff. Okay, and then no hand in and a regular lab. So those are the first 3 weeks. Okay, we're going to be reading about some interesting things. We're going to be doing a lot of talking. We're going to be meeting each other, and we're going to be kind of strategizing about how could we find some project to do. Okay, and how could we find people to do it with. Okay. Um, and you're going to be angsting about how we're going to do a project while we're still learning about how to do projects. And I'm going to be saying, I know you can do it, and here's how. All right. Um, so the rest of the schedule, if you go to week 4, you'll see that it's under construction, and that's true for all the weeks all the way to week 14. Week 14 is the fall break, Thanksgiving week, and then we come back for 2 weeks that are under construction. Week 16 is going to eventually be the week where we hand in all the stuff that we're handing in, and week 17 is final exams, and we don't have final exams in here. Okay, so that's the schedule. The next time we get together, it'll be much more full. Okay. Um, okay, so I segued into the schedule before I thought I was going to. So let's go back to the Canvas site. Okay. So we've got the syllabus in the schedule. We'll get to the syllabus. We've now run through the schedule. Here's some other stuff here. This is pretty important stuff. So it says, please set your preferred name using the university self-service application. So it's very important to me, and I hope to you, and I know to the iSchool, that people be seen and heard. Okay, and be seen and heard in the fullness of the way that they want to be seen and heard. And one important aspect of that is to be able to use the name that you prefer. Okay, and maybe you want to use the pronouns that you prefer as well. Well, one way to do this is in the way that we're going to do it is you can log into this self-service app at the university. And if you click through on this link, you'll see a help article that was written by the people at the iSchool help desk. And they show you how to do this. And once you do this, your preferred name gets picked up by Canvas and by Zoom. Okay. And we're going to know to call you, what we call you, by the name that's in Canvas and Zoom. And there's a way to put your pronouns in too, although I haven't done that yet. It's on my to-do list. I do think it's important. It's just not at the top of the to-do list, I guess. Okay, so I want you to do this soon. So when we get to the first class, we're already calling you what we're going to call you. Okay? So please do that. Okay. There is a page here about getting help and some quick links that was put together by the iSchool help desk and ITD folks that I've included here. Those are good resources. Each of my classes has an open discussion forum. And this is really a student-to-student way to reach out. We'll probably have another forum that I'll be adding here that we use for project selection and team formation, but I haven't had the time to get that up yet. Hopefully I'll have that up by the time of our first class. But This is a way for you to connect with each other. Uh, the TA, Mohammed Hassan, and I, we'll monitor this and we'll occasionally contribute. But if you need help from us, this isn't the place to get it. The place to get help from us is to go to this service desk and open a ticket. And then there is a page for Zoom meetings. I don't have them up yet, but I will have the first one up before the first class, I promise. And there'll be a link here for each of the class sessions, and there'll be a link for each of the online labs. So you'll be able to come here and click on a button and join in. Okay, so that's the first of the modules. The second one has to do with contact us, and by us, I mean me, the instructor, and Mohammed Hassan, the TA. So if you click through on this, you'll see a little bit of information about each of us, okay, including the idea that we don't want you to contact us by regular email. We want you to use this service desk for this course. And if you go to the materials on the service desk, you'll find out that I'm really very bad at email. And you're going to do substantially better using the service desk than you would with email. Okay? Now, how are you going to use the service desk for this course? Well, we have a page for that. Okay. And there is a link that will take you to the web page for the service desk for this course. Okay. So I created this using a product called Jira Service Management. And I've been using this, I don't know, 6 years or something like that, a long time. And it's a pretty reliable product. I've created a separate Jira Service Management project for each section that I'm teaching. So this link that I gave you takes you to the project just for our section only. And it's just going to go to me and to the TA, and that's it. And you. Okay. Now, I came right to the page because I'm already logged in. What would I see if I was not logged in? Well, let me log out. Okay. And what you're going to see is there's a place to put a username and a password. Of course, you're not going to have that when you start probably. So you're going to be able to go to the link, sign up for an account. Okay, and you're going to be able to do that. Okay, now I have a tutorial that I'll point you to in a minute that will show that kind of stuff getting done. Okay? All right, so that's how you get there. Now, the other thing we have is we have a link to another page called Service Desk Introduction, and that's kind of a general introduction to the service desk concept, some information on how to get started, and then links at the end to all the service desk projects that are currently active. I've got one for each of the 4 courses that I'm teaching in the fall. I have one for people who want to contact me about recommendations or such. And I have one called Other for all other things that people want to contact me about. Okay? So let's go back to the main page. Okay. And right under that link that we just had to get to the page we just saw is a link, there's a tutorial video on tips on playing my tutorial videos. So it's kind of meta, right? And you probably already know, if you haven't played this already, that when I speak and I record, I have a slow, deliberate pace. I occasionally speed up, but I come back to a pace like this. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, when I play this back, it's too slow. It's sometimes painfully slow. And so this tips video shows you how to alter the speed in YouTube in order to get the right experience that works for you and for the task that you're doing. So please play that first. The tutorial on how to use the service desk for this course is a link right here, and there's a link to a copy of the slides. There's the copy of the slides. Okay. Okay. Now, there's another module for submit assignments. Okay. Now we're looking at my view, so you can see all these assignments. Okay, and I'll update. I need to update the due dates on all of these and republish them so you can see them. But what we essentially do is individually we do a bunch of documents. We learn how to we learn these skills, okay, of a systems analyst. And we learn how to do the analysis and to document the analysis with these deliverables that we create. And so we each individually do these skills practice assignments. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And then the only other hand-ins are team presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, there's 8. There's this user interface thing. So there's 8 of them. And then the team does for their project, they do a project report and they do a team presentation video. Okay, and at the end of the semester, I have everybody do a peer evaluation to make sure that everybody, well, make sure that we don't have any freeloaders is what it comes down to. Okay, so those are the deliverables, and when you look at it in your view, you're not going to see these because they're not currently published. And then what I do is part of my approach is for each of these, kind of skills practice assignments, at the beginning of the next class, the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to have published my solution. And we're going to break up into groups and we're going to compare my official solution to your solutions. And we're going to talk about what's a good solution, right? They're going to be different. Are they different good? Are they different bad? Or are they just different? It really doesn't matter. Okay? And a lot of learning is going to go on there. Okay? And again, I will publish these right before the class in which we're going to discuss them. Okay? And again, when you look in your view, all you're going to see is more content coming soon. All right? So I've got some work to do to get all this organized, but I'm not very far away. So that's pretty much the Canvas site. The next thing I want to talk about is the syllabus. And I'm going to try to not talk about it kind of word for word. I'm expecting you to read it. I guess I've expected that you've already read it when you're playing this. So I'll try to talk about it on a little bit of a higher level. The top is metadata. I'm the instructor. The teaching assistant is Muhammad Hassan. Uh, Muhammad has some decent background in systems analysis, and I'm glad that he's going to be joining us. Um, the class sessions are on Thursday from 6 to 8 online on Zoom. Please use a headset. The experience is not as good when you don't use a headset. I use a headset all the time. Optional lab sessions, again, what's going to happen at lab sessions? Well, there are two kind of sets of activities that go on in the class. One, each of you individually is learning about systems analysis and the skills and the tools and the techniques, okay? And we've got a bunch of individual hand-ins when we're practicing all these things. So questions come up, should I do it this way or that? Or what did you mean by this? I typically have a tutorial that you can play that shows how to apply the technique before you're going to do it on your problem, but you'll still have some questions. The other thing that's going to go on is that you guys are going to find projects and form teams, and you're going to do the projects, and questions come up or problems come up. Problems come up in finding a client or finding a team or managing a client or managing a team. And I'm here to talk about all those things, and the lab sessions are the natural place to do it. Okay? Now, the lab session, again, we're going to have lab time at the end of each of the classes, and then we'll have a dedicated lab time from 9 to 10 on Sunday morning. Office hours. I don't hold conventional open office hours, but so if you need some help, come to the lab session. If you need a confidential individual conversation, well then use this service desk to open a ticket and request an individual meeting, and we'll set one up probably on Zoom, and we'll have a meeting, okay? To contact either me or Mohammed, the way to do it is to use the service desk for this course, and here's another place to find the link. Okay, and there's a link to the service desk introduction page here as well. Now, the course description here is pretty interesting. A lot of people come to this course and they know that people talk about systems analysis, but they're not exactly sure what it is, okay? In system analysis, well, let me read the description and then I'll try to enhance it. This is an introductory course in systems analysis for computer-based information systems. Systems analysts are primarily responsible for eliciting user requirements. So what are the requirements for the system? Proposing a system solution that meets those requirements, creating a model of the requirements and the proposed solution that can be understood by both system users and system developers. So those tools and techniques and documents that we learn to create, those are a model of the requirements and the proposed solution. Systems analysts also get involved in project identification, project planning, project management, supervision of detailed systems design, and supervision of system construction. Okay, those are traditional roles for the systems analyst. This course will cover two competing approaches to systems analysis and development. The traditional approach, sometimes called the waterfall approach and the Agile system development approach. Okay, so uh, and we have a lot of things for you to read. We have things to read by, the Spurrier and Topi book is a well-balanced kind of a textbook that tries to be fair to all points of view. The Agile Project Management for Dummies book um, is more of a proselytizing contemporary technical book that has a very one-sided kind of point of view, but we read it with that in mind. Um, and we're going to figure out how we feel about what the process it should be, and should it be different for different kinds of projects, or for different kinds of clients, or for different kinds of systems analysts. There's a whole lot of open questions, and we're going to start sorting our way through it. Okay? Learning outcomes. So what we'd like you to do, what we'd like you to be able to explain the role of the systems analyst in understanding the needs and managing the expectation of project stakeholders. Explain the primary differences between the waterfall and agile approaches to systems development. Explain how to identify and initiate a viable project using either the waterfall or the agile approach. Explain how to plan, elicit, and gather system requirements effectively. Use systems analysis tools and techniques to model system requirements for both waterfall and agile approaches. Explain the different ways in which the design of the system emerges in both the waterfall and agile approaches, and explain how programming, testing, installation, and maintenance activities fit into both the waterfall and the agile approach. So, I would like you to be in the position when you get to your day job that regardless of what the point of view of that organization is about a traditional kind of a waterfall approach or an agile approach, you'll know what they're talking about, and you're going to be able to relate to it and be part of it. We're not going to only tell you one way to do it. So you might walk into a place and go, oh, this is the enemy camp. I can't work there. You'll be able to work anywhere. Okay? What are the texts? Well, I talked about the Spurrier and Topi book. That's a classic systems analysis text. It probably goes as far as any of them in trying to synthesize the traditional approach and the agile approach. The Layton book, Agile Project Management for Dummies, is a very popular book about the agile approach. It takes no prisoners. It thinks, the authors think that they're right and that everybody else is wrong. And, well, they make some good points, but I think we're going to have probably a more balanced and broader view. And the last one is we're going to have a unit on conceptual data modeling. One of the ways that we model the requirements is we model the data requirements. And I've always found that the data modeling parts of these systems analysis books are kind of weak or weird or weak and weird. And the data modeling book that I use is this book by Andy Oppel that I've used in a lot of courses, and I really like the book. It's not a perfect book, but it's a good book. So we're going to be using the Andy Oppel book for our unit on conceptual data modeling. Technology-wise, you're going to need some kind of a PC or a laptop. I recommend that you either use a Windows laptop, Windows 10 or Windows 11, or a recent Mac OS version. All the software that we're going to use will probably run on Linux, but um, I'm not a good supporter of Linux client applications. I mean, I can keep my Linux servers going fairly well with a little bit of help. But if you're a Linux hotshot and you want to support yourself in trying to run all this stuff on Linux, well, talk to me first. But you know, if you want to do it, I'll let you do it. But if you're a normal person, well, then you're probably going to want to go with either the Windows or the Mac OS option. One tool that we're going to make a lot of use of, we're going to create a lot of diagrams. We're going to use a product called Lucid Chart, and it kind of runs in the browser. So you can use it on any of these operating systems. I know on the Mac it has a downloadable app that is it really running in the browser or are you running the app? It's always a little bit unclear to me. But it runs on all three platforms, and um, it was recommended to me by students years ago. I used to use other diagrammers, and they all said, well, why can't we use Lucid Chart? And finally, I joined them, and we're using Lucid Chart. Um, one aspect of the agile approach to systems development is you build as you go. Okay, so you put less effort into kind of documenting the requirements in some kind of elaborate requirements document, and you make a lightweight version of documenting the requirements, and then you start to build it in these iterations or sprints. So if your team is going to take an agile approach, your team is going to have to produce some software, not just word processing documents and diagrams, but actual working code, right? So if your team is going to do that, you're going to need some tools. Now, I have access to tools like Anaconda and Python and PyCharm and Django that I use in my other courses, and I can make them easily available to your team. And if you need to use a different tool set, well, I'll do my best to help you. Okay, but one of the big decisions that you're going to have to make is, are we going to take a waterfall approach in which we're going to create a document? Or are we going to take an agile approach in which we're going to create software? Now, the fact is, in a given amount of time, if you're going to create software, well, the scope is going to be smaller, right? And if you're going to create a document, well, then the scope can be larger, all right? So it's really interesting. There's lots of possibilities here. There's a link here to the course schedule. The course elements, there are readings. I'm going to expect you to read them before you play the lecture videos. I think I'd say here that all of the lectures are recorded, and that's probably true. I may be doing a little bit of lecturing in class here and there, but they're mostly recorded. So I'd like you to play them, right? The tutorial videos are going to be of two types. They're going to be the kind that say how to install software and how to use tools. And in particular, they're going to be tutorials on how to create some kind of document. One of the documents for the waterfall approach is a use case specification. Okay. Well, how do you create one? Well, I have a tutorial on that. Uh, on the Agile side, the kind of corollary document is called a user story. Well, how do you create one? Well, I have a tutorial to show you that. Okay. We have these skills practice assignments in which you're going to um, be creating these these analysis and design documents for a practice problem. Okay. And the idea is you practice on the practice problem, and we compare notes, and we get pretty set on the right way to do it. And then, of course, um, your team is going to do the same thing for your team project. Okay. Um, when we do these practice assignments, the first thing that we do in the next class is I'll publish my solution and we'll compare notes. Okay. And my solution isn't always the best. Sometimes student solutions are better than mine, or better than mine in some ways. Okay. So we talk it through. Um, the feedback that you're going to get on these assignments, the primary feedback is you being able to see our official solution and our talking through it. You will get graded feedback in about 2 weeks. Okay. So the final project it kind of works like this. So during about the first half of the semester, you're going to be learning fundamental systems analysis skills and getting ready for the final project. Before you're ready to start the final project, you need to accomplish the following. You're going to need to form a team of 2 to 4 people that includes you and other members of your class. You need to find a real world client with small to modest size problem or opportunity that can be solved using an information system solution. And you're going to choose a project approach for your systems analysis work. Are you going to do waterfall, agile, or it could be some kind of hybrid of the two? If your team chooses a waterfall approach, then I'll expect you to create documents that represent the requirements and the design of the system. I'll not expect you to do the coding, testing, and implementation. You'll give the deliverable to the client, and ideally, they'll find someone else to implement it, perhaps some kind of in-house team. If your team chooses the agile approach, then I'll expect you to create the lightweight agile documents like the vision statement, the product roadmap, and user stories. In addition, I'll expect you to deliver the code that has been produced in each of your sprints. Okay, and this will make a lot more sense as we learn more about Agile and user stories and sprints. So, usually when I say this to students, they're like, "How in the world are we going to do this?" Right? How are we going to learn about it and do it at the same time? And we do it by breaking the course up into approximate halves, the learning half and the doing half, right? Now, there are places where they take this kind of stuff and they learn in semester 1 and then they go do projects in semester 2. Well, our master's programs are short enough that this isn't really practical, and students for the most part haven't got the patience to work a whole semester without doing anything real. Okay, so the compromise is that we have a 1 semester course. Okay, and again, we front load the learning about systems analysis into a little bit more than the first half. And then we backload the doing a project with a project team into a little bit more than the second half. And it works. Okay. The scale of the work that you do in the project is smaller because you're using about half the time. But it's a one semester course that gets the job done, and you're started. Okay. Now, so when you're trying to pick a problem and a client and a team, there are a lot of interesting kind of interrelationships. Like, for instance, some students already have relationships with potential clients and some don't. Okay, some students have jobs at the university where they're doing work for departments. We could do work for the department or those kinds of things. Some students in the LIS program have a day job. Okay, and so we could do something for their employer. Okay, some people have family members who own a business or something like that. We could do something for the business. So, uh, different people have different access to clients. A project on which a team will use a waterfall approach, it can address a larger scope because no implementing code will be delivered. Conversely, a project on which a team will use the agile approach must address a smaller scope because the implementing code has to be delivered. Some students who are potential team members have programming skills, so they could be on an agile team and do the coding, but some don't. Okay, so they might be on a waterfall team or doing other things on the agile team. Some students may already have experience in working with clients to document requirements. So they may be very comfortable with the client interaction. Others may not. They may have to learn from scratch. Some students will find analysis and design documents that result from some clients have a value for having an analysis and design document. Okay, so for them, the waterfall approach might be fine. They might have a team that could go and implement that design. Okay, but other clients don't have anybody to implement. Maybe only an agile approach would work for them. Okay, so there's no easy solution. It's going to take us a number of weeks looking for opportunities, looking for ways to connect with each other, and then it's just going to happen. And again, I've done this. I've been doing this for well, not quite 10 years, I think. And I've probably taken over 600 students through this kind of program, certainly 500. And you know what? We always find a project, we always get it done. Okay? That might surprise you, but it works. So I'm going to be organizing in-class activities like breakout groups to help you find a potential team, identify clients, formulate projects, and get started. And again, it seems awkward at first, but it always finds a way to gel. What I really like is when I teach one of these in person and I can hear everybody talking at the same time. So we break up into groups and I'll hear some talking and then I'll hear louder talking, then I'll hear a lot more talking, and then I'll see people drawing on whiteboards and taking notes, and then it takes on a life of its own. So more detailed instruction and a grading rubric for the final project will be published separately and reasonably soon. Attendance, we're going to expect you to come to class. If you miss an online class, we're going to expect you to play the recording. Participation. Okay, there's going to be a lot of participation because that's going to be a lot of what we do during the class time. Okay. So what I do is I record who does what, and it's essentially who does what with respect to me. So you you earn these participation points. You can earn points for making a greetings post on the service desk during the first 2 weeks of the course, making a speaking contribution in class, making a chat a contribution on Zoom, presenting your work during class, like one of these assignments that you did, showing your solution, presenting as a spokesperson for your breakout group during class. So what I do, I'll go through the grading a little bit. What I do is I just add up all the points at the end of the semester and I mark it on a curve. And it's a pretty forgiving curve, you'll see. So I have this list of grading policies, and it's pretty long, and it's really the result of questions that have come up with students over the years. Can I do this? Why can't I do that? Why can't I get one more of these? Why can't I hand this in again? And so what I've had to do is I've had to write down all the rules. And so this has come to look like a contract for leasing a car. And it's way too long, but it gets the job done. And I apologize for it being so long. Please just read through all these grading policies. Any questions that you have, I'm glad to answer and talk through. I just want to call your attention to some really important ones. First, careful attention to detail is required, okay? This is very detail-oriented work being a systems analyst. So we're going to look for very specific things. So make sure you read the instructions and make sure you play the tutorials before you submit your work. You can't resubmit after the deadline. So you can resubmit before the deadline. So you could, for instance, let's say you do an assignment early and you hand it in, and then you go talk to one of your classmates and they say, "Oh, did you do such and such?" And you go, "Oh crap, I forgot to do that." Okay, well, if the deadline hasn't come, just resubmit and we'll mark the latest one. But once the deadline passes, we're not going to allow you to resubmit, or we'll be grading forever. Okay? So resubmission of assignments after the deadline will not be permitted for any reason. If you need a deadline extension, request it before the deadline by opening a ticket on the service desk. Substantial deductions are made for late submissions. So because I hand out the answers, okay, and because we're going to show each other our work collectively in the next class, once you see these things, they look easy, okay? The trick is to wrestle with it before you've seen the solution. So I give a lot of credit for handing it in on time and making a good faith effort on all parts. If you're late, you're going to lose like 15 points. It's not worth being late. Assignments submitted too late will not be graded. Too late for a skills practice assignment is 14 days, longer than 14 days. For a final project, it's longer than 7 days. Grade adjustments will be limited to automatic rounding. I get people who come in the end of the semester and they go, "If you could give me one more point for this assignment, I would move from an A minus to an A." I can't. Okay. The grades are the grades, and then we just calculate them up and we round. We do round. Okay. But I'll get people who say, "Well, if I just had one more point, I'd move from an A to an A plus." Well, it's either in the numbers or It's not, but we don't make adjustments. We compute the numbers and we do rounding. I mean that's favorable. Regrading requests made using the service desk would be given fair consideration. So, two scenarios here. One, you handed in something late, so we missed it. Okay, okay. Well, open a ticket on the service desk and say, "Hey, you still need to grade such and such." Or maybe we graded and we you don't think that we really understood what you were doing. You think that we ought to take another look at it. Well, open a ticket, we'll give it a look. We'll give it a fair second evaluation. We don't mind. Extra credit opportunities are not available. So if you look at the deal that I have on the grading of these skills practice assignments, you'll see that you can't really spoil your grade that easily with one kind of crappy submission. Okay, so no extra credit. Okay. The expected grade for assignment submissions that meet all expectations is 95. So if you meet all the expectation of all the regular parts of the assignment, you get a 95, a good solid A. So how do you move from there to 100? How do you get 96 through 100? Well, we always have some kind of a challenge. Okay, the challenge exercises are harder. There's less help available for them. Typically, I give hints, but that's how you move from the A to the A plus. Now, skills practice assignments that meet certain criteria are subject to a minimum score guarantee. Okay, so we want you to do two things every time you hand in a skills practice assignment. We want you to submit your work in a properly named and formatted file. That helps us to grade it. And we want you to submit your work by the deadline. This assures you'll get the benefit for having tried to solve the problem on your own before seeing the solutions of others. And I just can't emphasize enough how once you see it, it's easy. But before that, you're struggling. If you really want to get prepared for what it's going to be like in the workplace, it's going to be a struggle. Okay, so if you don't practice struggling a bit, you're not going to be ready for the workplace. So we have a grading rubric for each assignment with all of the details, but generally, if you submit your work in a properly organized and named file, you get all 10 points for that. And if you do, if you meet all the expectation, now, if you do, if you demonstrate good faith effort on all the regular exercise parts of the work, okay, so you show good faith effort on all parts, you'll get a minimum of 75. Okay. If you're late, you'll get a maximum of 74. So if you do these parts right, you kind of have a floor of 85 if you followed the directions, made a good faith effort on all parts, and handed it in on time. You can't do worse than 85. So it's hard to tank this, right? Now, the final project, there's no grade support at all. Each team has to earn every point from scratch. Okay, so this grading score support is something that we do on skills practice assignments only. Okay, how do we do the points for participation? Well, if you do the greetings post, you get 10. Making a speaking contribution in class, you get 2. A chat a contribution on Zoom, you get 1. Presentations of your work from your assignment during class, 5. Presentations as a spokesperson for your breakout group, you get 5. I just jot them down and add them all up. So I add them all up at the end of the semester, and then I see who has how many points, and I grade them on a curve. Okay. Now it's a forgiving curve. So here's what I do. I calculate the percentiles, and this is a kind of a percentile where it's a measurement of the percent that is less than or equal to the score that you have. Okay, so because of that, you can actually have 100th percentile. Now, if you're the 100th percentile person, you get 100 points. If you're the 50th percentile person, you still get 90 points. Okay, so this is a graded on a curve, but a gentle one. Okay, the only thing you really have to watch here is if you get fewer than 10 participation points, you get 0, regardless of what your percentile is. Okay. Attendance at class may affect your grades. So we don't grade attendance, but of course, almost all these participation things can only be done at class. So the attendance portion of the grade is 10% of the total grade. That's a full letter grade. So if you don't come to class and you don't participate, well, you're going to lose a whole letter grade. That's not going to feel good. Now, let's look at the basis for determining the grade. Some of the grade is individual. So participation is individual, it's 10%. Skills practice assignments are individual, they're 45%. The final project is a team grade, it adds up to 45%. There are 3 things that the team hands in: a project plan, a project report, and a team presentation video. Now, provided that everybody makes a fair contribution to the project, then everybody gets the same grade. But I reserve the right to give lesser grades for people who don't make a fair contribution. And how do I find that out? Well, the conversation that we're having during the course, and then in the end, I have everybody do peer evaluations. Now, I don't want to get peer evaluations with big surprises in them. It's like everybody says, well, Ralph never showed up and blah, blah, blah. Well, I never heard about Ralph not showing up. That doesn't sound right to me. Okay. So, but generally speaking, there have been very few times when I've had freeloaders on our projects. We did have a time when we lost somebody. I lost somebody once who got drafted by a professional sports team. And so they never showed up again. Well, they were making good money, so I think that was probably okay. But generally speaking, people show up, they get the job done, everybody on the team gets the same grade. But I'm just saying, I want to see that. I want you to prove it. Okay? The conversion of the number grades to the letter grades is pretty standard I got this from somebody when I came to the iSchool 14 plus years ago, and I haven't changed it. I think this is what most people use. Remember, the grades are the grades, and we're just going to add them up, and we're going to divide, and we're going to average them, and we're going to round them. That's all we do. Now, this last part is both mundane and important. Uh, it's important because these are all really important things. We're talking about uh, the ability to get incomplete grades under certain limited circumstances, academic integrity, inclusion and inclusivity, religious observances, accessibility, COVID-19 compliance. All these things are really important. There's especially important if you have some question or you need some help under whatever the policy is. So if you have some question or you need some help, your first stop can be me. Now, I might not have the answer or I might not have the help, but I can get that for you. Okay? So read through these, make sure you understand them, and if you have any questions or you need any help, see me. Okay. Now the mundane aspect of this is language that we call in kind of contract terms, we call it boilerplate. We put the same language in every syllabus, okay? So if you've already read it and you already understand it, well, you already understand it. But know that it's important and know that I'm here to give help and to direct you where you need to go. So that's it for the syllabus, and that I think is a pretty good introduction to the course. It's a fun course. I've had a lot of people through these kinds of systems analysis courses. Um, uh, as I mentioned, there's usually anxiety that the team won't find a project. Um, there's usually anxiety that the semester is too short. And yet it all comes together. And we do good work for people. We have fun doing it. The clients appreciate it. And people get favorable grades. I mean, it's a good experience, right? So I'm looking forward to working with you. I can't wait to meet you in the first class. And I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to say bye until then. So bye bye.